The beginning of this video cut out, and I really want to make a intro. Essentially how this video started out originally. I was telling a story basically about how I got a mean text from this guy that I went on a date with after I unmatched him. And it said, "LOL, you're not hot enough to unmatch me." And I was like, what? The math was not mathing at all. Cause I'm like, well, I don't actually have to be hot to think that you don't meet my needs. I don't think that I need to be hot to have standards. But then it got me thinking, wait, do girls ever believe that? Have girls ever fallen for that? Have girls ever thought, either consciously or subconsciously, I can't behave a certain way because I don't look a certain way, or I can only have these certain array of things because I don't fit the identity of someone who would have what I actually want. And that's what really this is about. So that's how this video started.
That got me thinking. Me personally, at the stage of life that I'm in, I have absolutely no fucks to give about this gentleman telling me I wasn't hot enough to unmatch him. It literally didn't rattle me. When someone tells me I'm not hot, I'm just so arrogant that I'm like, I don't believe you. I'm so delusional that I'm like, oh, okay, you're insecure. And I don't actually think that's a delusion. I think that's the reality. I'm gonna try this new Tower 28 powder. I have so many new products, guys. This is exciting. Too bad I'm not doing a talk through video though. But it got me thinking, you don't have to be hot to have standards. You don't have to be a 10 to reject a man at a bar. You don't have to be perfect in order to want better for your life. You don't have to fit any type of stereotype or standard in order to follow your gut instinct and get what you want in life. Too full of herself is a way that men use to attempt to keep women in line. And it's only effective on the weak. So I'm teaching you in this video how to not be that girl, how to not be weak. That's what we don't want to be. We don't want to be weak. Strong doesn't mean not feminine. Strong means savage. We are aiming for savagery. We are not aiming for accommodation. So what we're ultimately talking about here is having high standards. Basically, the notion of you have to look a certain way to be a certain value is misguided, because the way we deduce value, the way we decide value, the way that value is established has nothing to do with literal aesthetics, because a Kelly Birkin bag may be the most expensive bag you can buy, but a lot of people would say it's not the most beautiful. A Cybertruck is, to some, one of the ugliest cars that exists. However, Kim Kardashian wants to be photographed with it, and it costs as much as a Porsche 911. Why does this car have value if it's aesthetically not pleasing? Hyundai started making vehicles that resembled Bentleys, but then why is it way cheaper? Why is Bugatti the most expensive car in the world when some people think it's ugly? Do you see how value and literal aesthetic appearance are not correlated whatsoever? So that's really the first way to break this down. It's not an objective measure. Do you remember that video, that trend that went viral that was rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, and the girl's a 10, and he's are you sure, blah blah blah, and she's yeah, a 10. And do you know how many incels that pissed off? Because men really are dying for women's value to be tied to them. You basically decide your value. So by virtue of having high standards, you're already on the path of being high value. Women are getting to this point where they're understanding that there's no literal metric. So the big benefit to realizing this is realizing that you can get what you want. You don't have to look a certain way or measure up to a certain objective standard. You really get to set your own value, and your value increases with time if you decided it does. What's the catch here is that hotness is malleable. So to some people, they may think the version of me 10 years ago is hotter, and that's their prerogative. But what matters is what I think, because that is going to dictate my life experience. And I don't need to get hung up on making sure everyone agrees with me and my assessment. I mean, we just don't even have time for that. You only have time for a certain number of people in your life. You can decide what you want to attract and then attract that. So we'll talk about the energy of hotness in another video. I really want to stay focused in here in the idea of value being tied to some external thing and then subconsciously deciding what you can have based on how close to the ideal you are. The ideal is a moving target. You can find any woman on earth and she is a 10 to someone. Not that you need those statistics to set your standards, but that oftentimes helps to remember that like you are a 10 to someone, first of all, and hotness is an energy, which we'll talk about in another video, and the beauty standards all changing. Like you could have been born 1,000 years ago and been the hottest person ever, and present day you just are not. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's so relative, and the facts of your own life are so malleable based on what you believe. Being high value, man or woman, has to do about your integrity and the standards you set for yourself and your own life. Oh, that thing in the corner is not cute. Telltale sign that you are suffering from this value disorder in your head, that you have suffered from some of this, is like, are you experiencing mediocrity in your life? Do you feel like you're in the wrong timeline? Because this is a evidence that you have subconsciously settled for something less because you think that's what you deserve. You don't see yourself as attractive. You might be. You don't see yourself as attractive. You don't see yourself as the type of person that would get the things that you want. And so if you are experiencing mediocrity, like, I'm not reaching my full potential, it's because you're not letting yourself reach your full potential. If you noticed fulfillment and liking how you look and feeling confident about how you look is a moving target, get your boobs done and you still don't feel good. You get filler and you still don't feel good. You buy new clothes and you still don't feel good. You get your hair done and you still don't feel good. These are all symptoms of a deeper issue, which is insecurity and not seeing yourself as that high value person that you are. When you don't like yourself or you don't feel good enough, I know that's an infuriating phrase, but just bear with me here. If you don't feel good enough, if you don't understand how the world works, how I'm explaining how the world works, then you are going to be suffering from those previously listed symptoms. The whole goal is to be in alignment with yourself. Being in alignment with yourself really means that you kind of like are obsessed with yourself in the best way possible. Like you love yourself. Being in alignment brings everything to you effortlessly. It's kind of like mandatory for women. And that's what you get for listening to this curriculum and learning how to apply this curriculum. You get alignment. And when you're aligned, comments like, you're not hot enough to unmatch me, don't bother you, because you're like, I really don't have to be hot to have power. You realize that that's what hotness or beauty or measuring up to the standard boils down to, is power. And there are more sustainable ways to get power, and true power never dies. So here's a framework on how to start improving this. If you looked exactly like the ideal person that you think that you need to look like, what would you choose to have? If you came from the right family, if you looked like the right color, if you came from the right location, etc., what would you choose if there were no limits? So that's the first thing you need to ask yourself. What would you have to be in order to get what you want? So that's one way that you're going to be able to reveal these subconscious blockages for you, is realizing that, oh, I didn't know that I thought I had to be X in order to get Y. That's just a completely false belief. That is just not even the case at all, as I'm demonstrating. Notice where you feel uninspired, where you feel like exhausted. Your birthright is to feel inspired, engaged. You should not feel any sense of attachment or needing or longing in life. Like, yes, you need to meet your survival needs, but that is quite easy to do. So any area of your life where you're not experiencing like full kind of excitement and fulfillment is an area of your life where you potentially are telling yourself you can't have the thing you actually want. It's not possible to have the things that you actually want. Next thing you need to do is go through and make a list of every single thing that is impossible for you to have. Like, come up with the craziest shit that you couldn't possibly imagine having. If it's impossible for you to have, you need to write it down. Confidence is a science and an art. It is not something that is gifted or not. It is learnable, teachable, achievable. And the most infuriating thing that I'm about to say, the only thing you need to do is realize that you are good enough. It gets to be good enough is a phrase that I love to say throughout the day because I don't feel good enough to be doing a lot of the things that I do, but I do them anyways. And then I actually realize after I do the thing successfully that I always was good enough. But it doesn't prevent me from ever having those human emotions of I don't feel good enough. So let yourself not feel good enough and say it gets to be good enough. I'm gonna do the thing I'm called to do anyways. You may be the prettiest person ever. This isn't technically about like facial architecture because you could be the most beautiful person ever and really feel like the ugliest person ever, right? So there's no objective truth around it. Like pretty people definitely feel ugly all the fucking time. These exercises are gonna help to get you into alignment, and alignment is where you find true sustainable hotness. The universe, the society we live in allows us to have certain things based on certain things, but that is just not the case. Like you allow yourself to either have something or not. If you invest in yourself physically and mentally and spiritually, then your life will continue to get better. And however you feel right now, if you're like 22, 23 and you think it's all downhill from here, like that is a thing that I actually said, it's all downhill from here after 21, then you will be very happy to find out that it actually gets way better and better and better and better. I'm gonna use this eyeliner as lip liner and probably regret it. I will see you in the next video.